Hey guys, welcome to the Weekly Talkthrough. You are back with Katie and Evan to go over the biggest news in gaming and esports this week. Kicking things off, Steam is trying to tackle review bombing, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a practice where disgruntled players go onto a game's page on Steam and they all heavily downvote the review to take the net positive score down as much as they can. Of course, they can do this for a lot of reasons. They can do this because of something directly having to do with a game like Grand Theft Auto and modding, or they can do it because they're angry about something perhaps that a developer said that is irrelevant to the game itself. So Steam said, we don't really like this kind of distortion. We don't think that this is necessarily the appropriate way to express your displeasure with someone. So they are instead getting rid of the regular scores and going to a histogram chart that will visually represent everything that's going on in, Evan, an attempt to try and curb people's ability to take out their wrath on the video games review score.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about it. I mean, obviously it's a good change acknowledging the fact that, if something completely unrelated to the game happens and for some terrible reason, that tanks the scores. I do like the system that's currently in place, though, for releases that happen that are, comparable to something like No Man's Sky, where the game is just built up to be this glorious, amazing new release. And then upon release, it turns out, exactly, you're just completely screwed. None of the things you expected were coming. And then obviously, as a consumer, you have the right to give that hugely negative review. And that's what happened. But for stuff like GTA, where, everybody clearly loves the game, something that's, an augment of the game is what's causing the review to tank. Developers can definitely be happy about this for sure.
Yeah, and I think honestly it is, players, we can all be fickle. When people are angry, we look for an outlet. And I would agree that hurting the score of a game that could potentially dissuade someone else from buying it and enjoying it just because you're mad about something else that has nothing to do with that.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that they're at least putting in the effort. We'll see how it plays out with the histogram. I mean, seems like it's going to definitely make all the information more relevant and understandable. So it is perhaps obvious if people try to review bomb, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I definitely don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Now, moving on, unless you somehow, are a gamer that lives under a rock and do not know about the biggest esports event in history that's going on right now, League of Legends World Championships just started. Finally, we've been waiting forever. The play-in phase of the League of Legends World Championships, which is currently occurring in China, just started yesterday. We saw some really good matches, seeing dominant performances from the play-in favorites like Cloud9 and Team World Elite from China. Obviously it's a little bit of a bias towards those two teams just because the other teams are from very smaller regions with, teams that aren't exactly well versed in the competitive atmosphere. But I'm really excited that League has finally, Worlds is here. We get amazing performances every year. Hopefully we get some really cool upsets. And me personally, I don't know about you, I'm just hoping Team Korea, whichever one based out of there, does not end up sweeping the competition like they seem to do every year.
Well, we'll have to see, right? People are trying to jockey for the top spot. I enjoy when you get this lull perhaps between, Dota 2 and the international and then Worlds with League of Legends. It's fun to start getting into that hype again of this big moment coming up and watching all these great teams and great players coming together to duke it out. You may have missed some of the first games if you're like me and you're a little hungover, but thankfully, we have the internet, so we can go back and watch them. But don't forget to stay tuned. The daily walkthrough is going to cover the schedules and the times for everything every day, so you won't miss anything.
We'll have all of your faker highlights.
All of the great highlights from all of the best players that are far better than we are.
Yeah.
Is there anything? So I wonder, Are you expecting perhaps any major upsets, or do you think it's going to be fairly,
I think it's a little too early to tell, honestly. Once the play-in phase is over and we see how some group stage games start to occur, I'm expecting good performances out of TSM for sure. I think it's really Bjergsen's year. Oh my God, I know people say that every year, but he is so good for a reason. People really seem to like him.
Right, he's in the top 20, of course.
Exactly. I think we could definitely expect some one-off games. I don't know if we're going to see any super crazy, reverse sweeps or anything like that once we get to the knockout stage. But once group stages start, I think we'll have a little bit of a better idea.
Well, I certainly can't wait. And again, guys, stay tuned. We'll have everything you need to know about Worlds for League of Legends. So get excited. Aside, unfortunately, from Worlds, which is fairly quiet week, Evan, I would say, in the news. There wasn't a lot of major things that happened. But something else interesting is that we have Overwatch, really Jeff Kaplan and the whole team at Blizzard really putting their foot down about toxicity in the game and player behavior. They've actually admitted that updates and improvements to the game are taking longer to implement because they're spending so much of their time and energy trying to really find good, healthy solutions for toxicity, whether through improving the reporting, allowing people who have reported someone to get an email that tells them that something has been done about that person they reported. And now Josh on the forums, one of the community managers, he dropped another hammer for toxic players. And he said last week, quote, starting Wednesday, September 27th, any player who accumulates 3 or more seasonal bans will be permanently banned from competitive play, removing their ability to participate in any future matches in that mode.
Bringing the hammer down.
Right? That's about as aggressive as it gets. And that's a huge threat to have lingering over your head, especially with reports also being enhanced.
Yeah, definitely. You can't really argue if you've played Overwatch. There are a lot of really, really toxic people. It's not exactly the most unfriendly ecosystem to toxic people. There's a lot of freedom, obviously, with your chat. I think it's a good thing, though. People in the professional scene complain about having all kinds of people ruining games, whether it's leaving early,
a troll Torb who just builds turrets at the base,
just generally being ridiculous, right? I'm not surprised to see this. I am surprised that it honestly took so long, considering how long the game has been out and how little the ecosystem regarding toxicity has actually changed. But this is definitely a change for the better, in my opinion.
Well, I agree. And a point to note to the people who may see this and go, I'm not worried about it. I just have to not get 3 strikes every season. It's actually cumulative strikes. So as they explained, you can get a strike in season 1 and 3 and 5, and that could ban you for every season after the fact. So it's definitely, they're making any loopholes very difficult for people to get through. And I like that. I like to see a game that's as new as Overwatch trying to tackle a problem that is so long-standing for any game that's online pretty much ever.
Yep.
But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what Jeff has to say about it in the future and how this plays out. I mean, I'll be interested to see what ways perhaps that toxic players try to get around it.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely going to restrict myself from any raging or anything like that.
Evan, are you a rager?
No, not at all.
Jeff, don't watch this, please. No, I do think it'll be interesting. But like we said, guys, it was a quiet week. So that's about all we've got for you. Again, this is Katie and Evan with the Daily Walkthrough, giving you your weekly talk through on the biggest news in gaming and esports. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you next week.